I'm impressed. I know some people in the camp, and I actually know some people very well in the camp, and they've been telling me that he's worked really extremely hard this fight. It showed tonight.
First of all, I think that Jake Paul fought a good fight. You know, he moved around the way he's supposed to, throwing great punches, and for the experience he had, he did fantastic.
Jake Paul was supposed to be exposed. When the fight against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. was announced, the boxing world let out a collective cynical sigh. This, they claimed, was the ultimate test, the moment the brash, loud-mouthed YouTuber would finally be silenced by a true former world champion with a legendary bloodline. For years, the narrative had been carefully managed. Jake had built an impressive-looking record, but critics relentlessly pointed out it was a house of cards, constructed on the names of retired MMA fighters, former basketball players, and internet personalities. They were athletes, yes, but they weren't boxers. Chavez Jr. was different. He was the son of a boxing deity, a man who had held a world title and had been in the ring over 60 times. He was seen as the gatekeeper, the grizzled veteran who would finally demonstrate the vast, unforgiving chasm between a celebrity influencer and a seasoned professional.
He's scared, man. He's so nervous. I feel it. I see it in his eyes. So I'm ready to put him down.
The online discourse was a firestorm of doubt. Boxing purists saw it as another stain on the sport, while even casual observers predicted a humbling, perhaps brutal end to the Jake Paul experiment. The stage was set for an execution, but what unfolded inside that ring wasn't the end of a hype train. It was a coronation, and it left everyone asking one shocking question: is Jake Paul actually the real deal?
If Jake Paul wasn't Jake Paul, if he wasn't this YouTube guy, he was just a boxer, and you see a boxer knock out the former UFC welterweight champion, not just the former, but one of the best ever, knock him out with one punch like that, like, oh man.
On paper, it looked like another classic, almost diabolically clever, set up from the Jake Paul playbook. Pre-fight analysis was overwhelmingly skeptical, with many dismissing the bout as a predictable farce. Commentators and analysts, while acknowledging Chavez Jr.'s name, were quick to point out the asterisks. He was 39 years old, well past his prime, and had a well-documented history of struggling with discipline and motivation. Furthermore, he was a smaller man, moving up in weight to face a naturally larger, stronger opponent in Jake. It was seen as a genius move by Jake's team, picking an opponent whose name carried the weight of legitimacy but whose actual threat was perceived to be minimal.
This is going to be the toughest fight of his career, the most embarrassing fight of his career. He's going to be exposed.
Julio, que te va a romper tu madre, güey. Más.
I don't think so.
It was a low-risk, high-reward fight designed to look impressive on a resume without being genuinely dangerous. The consensus was that Chavez Jr., despite his controversies, would still possess a level of ring IQ, a veteran savvy that Jake simply couldn't handle. People expected him to school the influencer, to use his experience to expose the raw, unrefined nature of Jake's boxing. The stage was set for Jake's downfall, and a global audience tuned in, many eager to watch it happen. But when the first bell rang, the script that everyone had written was immediately and violently thrown out the window. What the world witnessed was a bizarre, almost surreal performance that no one saw coming. From the opening rounds, something was deeply and profoundly wrong with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. He moved forward like a ghost, his hands held high in a tight defensive shell, but he refused to throw any meaningful punches. He walked, he blocked, he absorbed, but he did not fight. Round after round, the crowd and the commentators grew more and more confused.
Like he's not accepted. I mean, look, he's a YouTuber. People know that, but you gotta respect it, man. The only thing you can do is respect it. But you know, that's it, man. You gotta respect it.
The questions started to fill the broadcast. Is Chavez here to fight or not? What is his strategy? The only logical explanation seemed to be a classic rope-a-dope strategy, a page taken from Muhammad Ali's playbook.
Junior, on the other hand, he didn't throw any punches until the third or fourth round or something. He was just kind of walking forward, and I don't know what he was doing. It was weird. It was weird to see that type of fighting, but anywho, that's not Jake Paul's fault. So.
The theory was that he was letting the younger, less experienced Paul punch himself out, absorb the punishment, and then once Jake was fatigued in the later rounds, he would turn the tables and unleash the fury of a seasoned champion. It was a plausible, even intelligent strategy. But as the fight wore on past the 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds, it became chillingly clear this wasn't a strategy. It was a surrender.
Jake was impressive. Surprisingly, he was impressive. He's definitely improving. He got a good team with him. They're working on some things, but, to become an elite fighter, it's like, bro, it's miles away from where, they can comprehend.
In stark contrast, Jake Paul was a picture of controlled aggression. He wasn't the wild, swinging brawler many expected. He was sharp, disciplined, and relentless. He established his jab early, snapping it into Chavez Jr.'s face, controlling the distance and dictating the pace of the fight. His footwork was crisp, his composure unshakable. He looked like the veteran in the ring, systematically breaking his opponent down with a calm, methodical assault, even when Chavez Jr. finally showed signs of life in the last few rounds, landing a few hard shots. Jake proved his chin was more than just talk. He got fatigued, yes, but he held on, weathering the brief storm and continuing to outwork his opponent. The fight wasn't just one-sided, it was weird. It was an anticlimax that felt more like a sparring session than a high-stakes professional bout.
Basically, you lived off your father's name. That's basically what you do because you didn't even fight until the last round, maybe last two rounds, and threw some punches, and you had some success when you threw some punches. It's the weirdest thing ever, but
that wasn't the whole story, because the real drama, the real fight, began after the final bell. As soon as the decision was announced, the boxing world erupted with a deeply divided verdict. On one side, legends and insiders who had been skeptical before were suddenly and shockingly singing Jake's praises. Boxing great Sugar Shane Mosley, a multi-division world champion and future Hall of Famer, was stunned. He praised Jake for moving well and fighting a great fight, but he was absolutely brutal in his assessment of Chavez Jr. He needs to retire, Mosley stated bluntly. If you can't throw any punches in 2, 3, 4 rounds, you need to retire. What are you doing? You're basically living off your father's name.
I was kind of puzzled why Chavez Jr. didn't throw any punches until the 5th or 6th round. I don't know, it was weird. That was puzzling to me.
The sentiment was echoed by Jose Benavidez Sr., the respected trainer of champions like his own son, David Benavidez. He declared that Jake looked really good, and in a statement that sent shockwaves through the sport, said he now deserves a chance to fight for a world title. Coming from the top of the game, this was a massive endorsement.
I think Jake Paul looked really good. I think he won all the rounds. I mean, it's good for boxing. I think he deserves a chance to fight for a world title. He proved it today with the ex-world champion, Julio Cesar Chavez, that, he dominated and he did really good.
The praise wasn't just coming from retired legends either. Active young fighter Rayo Valenzuela stated that Jake deserves to be considered among the top 15 to 20 fighters in his division. This was validation from a peer, someone inside the trenches of the sport today. Boxing commentator Showbiz the Adult, known for his sharp analysis, added another layer, arguing that Jake's technical growth was being criminally underestimated. He has gotten way better, Showbiz insisted. He messed around and got good. This wasn't just praise for a good performance, it was an acknowledgement of a fundamental shift. Professionals were starting to see him not as an entertainer, but as a legitimate competitor.
All of that, and you guys only viewed the circus and called Jake fake and everybody else clowns. Y'all looked like clowns last night.
But not everyone was ready to welcome him into the club. For every voice of praise, there was another crying foul, and the loudest and most persistent belonged to British pundit Piers Morgan. He blasted the entire event, calling it an unwatchable farce and accusing Jake of killing the sport. In his view, Jake was just lining his pockets with buckets of dollars by fighting older fighters way past their prime.
In the ring with a guy who's 50, he's literally nearly as old as me.
I'm not talking about Mike Tyson. I'm talking about Anderson Silva, Tyrone Woodley, champions in their sport. Golden Gloves champions, Ryan Borland, Andre August, undefeated fighters. The list goes on and on.
But what great boxer have you been in the ring?
This sentiment had been the flashpoint in a fiery interview between the two before the fight, a confrontation that perfectly captured the war for Jake's legitimacy. Morgan relentlessly challenged him, stating, "The only proper boxer you fought was Tommy Fury and he beat you." Jake, visibly agitated, fired back, listing his victories over champions from other sports like Anderson Silva and Tyron Woodley and actual boxers like Andre August. It's about time that you old heads and all these damn boxers who think they know about the sport put some respect on my name, Jake retorted. The exchange was a microcosm of the entire debate. Morgan framed Jake as a brilliant businessman but a fraudulent fighter, a master of marketing who was too afraid to take a real risk.
I think you're a great YouTuber, a great influencer. I admire what you've tried to do in boxing, but I do think when you actually come up against a proper, serious boxer, and I suspect that Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. may be that person, it could all come crashing down.
This was the voice of the traditionalists, the purists who saw Jake's rise not as an inspiring story of dedication, but as a cynical marketing ploy that made a mockery of the sweet science. The battle lines were drawn. Was Jake Paul elevating boxing, or was he destroying its credibility? The debate raged, but it overlooked the real secret behind his shocking success.
Everybody would think Anderson Silva would beat Jake Paul. I don't think there would be a surprise element. You know what I mean? Like, you still need to have a balancing act here, whether you're playing. I think Anderson is too good. Like, I don't think there would be a surprise element to that promotion. I think Chavez Jr. is a better name.
The truth is, Jake Paul's victory wasn't just about what he did in the ring. It was about what he did outside of it. His secret weapon isn't just his right hand, it's his bank account. As former Olympian and boxing analyst Tony Jeffries pointed out, Jake has $1 million advantage that is almost impossible to overstate. He can afford to build a support system that most professional fighters, even champions, can only dream of.
When it comes to giving this guy respect, I think now he deserves it. I've given him respect all the time. I think him fighting someone like Tyron Woodley, who he fought earlier on in his career, was a big, bold move.
We're talking about the best trainers money can buy, elite sports scientists tracking his every metric, top-tier nutritionists crafting his diet, and most importantly, cutting-edge recovery technology. Jeffries specifically highlighted Jake's personal hyperbaric chamber, a tool that floods the body with oxygen to dramatically accelerate recovery. As Jeffries explained, this creates an exponential growth curve. While an average boxer trains hard and is broken down, needing time to recover, Jake can train just as hard or harder and recover almost immediately. This allows him to stack effective training sessions on top of each other at a rate his competitors simply can't match.
Some of these fights will not be on TV, and now Jake is on TV and he's fighting former world champions, which he's fought a few now. I think everyone should give him respect now as a fighter, fighting someone like that and putting so much pressure on himself as well.
An average boxer is progressing like this, Jeffries explained, gesturing a slow, steady incline. Jake Paul is recovering and progressing like this, he finished, making a steep, almost vertical line. This isn't just about money, it's about a level of commitment and strategic investment in himself that is almost unprecedented. He's not just playing boxing, he's treating it like a billion-dollar startup.
I ain't no killer, don't push me. That's good. Short what you want, I got what you need. I'm all the way up. I'm all the way up. I'm all the way up.
Don't charge at me, Tyson.
Jeffries even made the controversial but powerful comparison between Jake's sixth professional fight and the sixth fight of the legendary Floyd Mayweather, suggesting Jake's opponent was far more credible. He's working smarter, enabled by immense resources, and the results are undeniable.
I just want to say that Jake deserves every single penny that he gets. And before I talk about the fight and what's next for Jake, I just want to say it. Like I mentioned, I want the very best for boxing. What Jake is doing is bringing eyeballs to boxing. What Jake is doing is bringing people into boxing, whether they're coming into boxing to think, well...
And what happened next would prove he was ready to confront his critics head-on. At the post-fight press conference, Jake Paul walked in with the same unshakable confidence he'd shown in the ring. He was gracious in victory, giving his opponent respect and praising the tough Mexican warrior spirit. I don't know how he was eating all those punches, to be honest. My hands low-key hurt from his face. he admitted, a comment that simultaneously acknowledged Chavez Jr.'s toughness and highlighted his own offensive output.
It was great. You know, I love that he brought a good fight at the end, and I think that the fans got a good fight to see him come out, put some punches on me, and it makes me better. It brings the best out of me. I started catching his shots, shooting back, and I had to elevate tonight and rise to a different level, and I'm glad that the fans got to see me get punched in the face a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's good. I love a good fight.
But when a reporter inevitably brought up the criticism from figures like Piers Morgan, Jake's tone shifted. He wasn't defensive, he was defiant. He spoke directly to the critics who had questioned his chin, his toughness, and his durability for years. "People underestimate my chin and my ability," he stated firmly, before delivering the line that would define his victory and serve as his new mantra. Actions speak louder than words.
Anything's possible. And so I like the challenge. People, that's the criticism. Fight someone in their prime who's a beast. I think people just want to see me lose. That's really what the message is behind it all.
It was a clear, powerful message to everyone who sat behind their desks on their TV shows or behind their keyboards and predicted his failure. This win was personal. It was validation. He had proven that his growth was real, that he could take a punch from a seasoned pro, and that he was more than just a celebrity chasing clout.
What do you make of how Jake Paul looked and fought? He's doing his thing. Jake Paul's looking good. Shout out to him. Yeah.
He walked out of that arena with more than just a victory. He walked out with the respect he had been fighting for. This single fight completely flipped the script on the Jake Paul narrative. Before the bout, the overwhelming opinion was that this was just another publicity event. He was known for calling out retired MMA fighters and internet celebrities, and most people lumped Chavez Jr. into that same category, a big name but a low-risk, compromised opponent. Many even picked Chavez Jr. to win, expecting Jake to finally be exposed. But Jake treated this fight differently. His camp reported that he was more focused and dialed in than ever before, cutting out all distractions to prepare for what he called his toughest opponent yet. He silenced the critics by not just winning, but by dominating a seasoned pro with strategy and composure. This victory was different. It wasn't against a wrestler or a basketball player. It was against a former world champion, the son of a legend. It was a win that couldn't be easily dismissed. He took what everyone saw as a calculated risk and turned it into an undeniable statement, fundamentally changing the perception of his career.
That Canelo didn't do or couldn't do. So Jake Paul, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., it's a real fight. Look, people keep talking about Jake Paul, well, he's not a real fighter, this and that. Well, he's fighting a real fighter now in Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. It's going to be a good test for both guys.
The talk of building a legacy, which once sounded like hollow marketing, suddenly started to hold weight. So where does that leave us? Jake Paul, the kid from YouTube, the problem child, stepped into the ring against a former world champion and didn't just win, he dominated. He earned the praise of boxing legends and proved his dedication is backed by an elite, professional-grade operation that few can rival.
Movement. C+, B. B. You're not giving him a B from or where he's coming from. No experience, and fighting Julio is exactly what he needs to get all the improvements. I mean, for him to get better fights for himself.
Yet he still faces a storm of criticism from those who believe he's a conman exploiting the sport for fame and fortune, a master manipulator whose success is an illusion created by a massive bank account and carefully selected opponents. The question is no longer if he can fight. He can. The question is what his rise truly means for the sport of boxing.
What do you make of how Jake Paul looked and fought? He's doing his thing. Jake Paul's looking good. Shout out to him. Yeah.
Has he finally silenced the doubters and earned his place as a legitimate force? Is he a disruptor breathing new life and new money into a struggling art form? Or is he a destroyer, tearing down its traditions with carefully staged events that prioritize business over sport? Is he a new king or a clever conman? The answer, it seems, depends entirely on who you ask. Hit that subscribe button on Knock Radar for exclusive fight rumors and the real stories behind boxing's biggest moments. Drop a comment below, we want to hear what you think.